Turn on your kitchen tap. Water comes out. It has been that way your entire life, which means you have never once had to think about what happens when it stops. Most people haven't. They have bottled water in the pantry, a Brita on the counter, and zero plan beyond that. Here's the problem. A standard Brita filter processes 40 gallons before it is spent. One person needs a minimum of 1 gallon per day to survive. You have prepared for 40 days, maybe. Navy SEALs prepared for 90. Without power, without municipal water. This is how they did it. Most people's water plan is not a plan. It is a feeling. A vague confidence that water will be there because water has always been there. That confidence is not stupidity. It is the product of a system so reliable, so invisible, that trusting it requires no thought. Turn the handle. Water appears. Repeat every day for your entire life, and you never once have reason to question the chain of events that made it possible. Here is that chain. Municipal water does not flow because of gravity and good intentions. It flows because of electricity. Electric motors drive the pumps that pull water from the source. Electric systems run the filtration and chlorination processes. Electric controls manage the pressure throughout the entire distribution network. When the grid fails, those pumps stop. Pressure inside the pipes begins to drop immediately. In most municipal systems, residual pressure in the lines lasts between 24 and 48 hours after sustained power loss. Some systems fail faster. After that, the taps run weak, then slow, then dry. That is not a theory. That is documented infrastructure behavior under real conditions. After Hurricane Katrina, large portions of New Orleans lost water pressure within 36 hours. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, water advisories went out within 24 hours across multiple cities because treatment plants could not maintain operations without consistent power. These were not apocalyptic scenarios. They were ordinary grid disruptions. They revealed, without drama, exactly how thin the margin is. Now run the numbers on what you have stored right now. The average household has a case or two of bottled water somewhere in the back of a cabinet. Maybe a Brita filter on the counter. A Brita processes approximately 40 gallons before the cartridge is spent. One person needs a minimum of 1 gallon per day to survive. That is drinking water only. Nothing for cooking. Nothing for hygiene. 40 gallons. 40 days of survival for one person under ideal conditions. No exertion, no heat, no illness. 2 people cuts that to 20 days. A family of 4 cuts it to 10. Run that math for your household today, right now, because 99% of people have never done it and most never will. The math gets worse under real conditions. Physical stress increases water requirements significantly. Manual labor in summer heat can push minimum daily requirements to 3 gallons per person. Children and elderly people reach critical dehydration faster. The gallon per day figure is a survival floor, not a comfortable operational number. The real planning target for 90 days of functional capacity is 1.5 gallons per person per day. For one person, that is 135 gallons. For a family of 4, that is 540 gallons. Look at your Brita. Look at those numbers. The biology does not negotiate. Your body is approximately 60% water by weight. Cognitive function begins to degrade at 2% dehydration. Most people cannot identify that they are cognitively impaired when dehydrated, which is precisely when they are making decisions about finding more water. At 5% dehydration, physical performance drops measurably. At 8 to 10%, organ stress begins. Death occurs between 10 and 15% body water loss depending on weight, temperature, and physical condition. 3 days without water is the temperate, sedentary, indoors estimate. In summer heat or under exertion, the timeline compresses significantly. This is not hypothetical. This is thermodynamics and human biology. Your body runs on water at a rate that does not pause for emergencies, does not slow down for inconvenience, and does not respond to hope. 99% of people understand none of this, not because they are careless, but because they have never been forced to calculate it. The system always worked. The handle always turned. The knowledge never became necessary. That is the exact trap the system creates. Its reliability is the very reason people have no contingency for when it fails. And when it fails, they are already 24 hours behind. Here is where the mindset splits. Navy SEALs do not wait to be in the field before they solve water. Water is solved before pre-deployment planning is complete, before they know the terrain, before they know the mission duration, before they know the threat environment. Water is solved. Not estimated, not approximated, engineered. A team going into a 90-day operational environment has a water architecture that does not depend on infrastructure, does not depend on finding sources, and does not depend on luck. It depends on a system built before they ever needed it. That system has 4 layers: collection, filtration, storage, and rotation discipline. Each layer solves a distinct failure mode. Each layer is designed to function independently of the others, so that if one component fails, the remaining 3 still produce water. This is not redundancy for its own sake. This is the engineering logic of a profession where failure is not abstract and help is not coming. Not from enemy contact, not from equipment failure, from thirst. Because water is the one variable that kills quietly, efficiently, and on a schedule your body sets whether you are ready or not. The system requires no grid power. It requires no functioning municipality, no cooperative neighbor, no emergency broadcast telling you where to go. It requires 3 things: planning done before the emergency, materials assembled before the need, and the discipline to maintain the system before anything goes wrong. That last element is where 99% of people who attempt any form of preparation fail completely. They build part of the system and stop. They acquire storage but skip filtration. They filter but never rotate. A half-built water system is more dangerous than no system at all. It produces confidence without producing clean water. Here is the architecture they built. All 4 layers, the exact sequence, the science behind each component, the quantities that actually matter, and the discipline rules that separate a system that works for 90 days from one that fails quietly sometime in month 2 when you still believed you were prepared. The first layer is collection. Before you can filter water, store water, or rotate water, you need a source that does not depend on a functioning municipality. 99% of people skip this layer entirely. They assume they will find water when they need it. Finding water under pressure is how people die of dehydration while standing next to water they cannot safely drink. The most reliable collection source available to almost every person in the developed world is their own roof. A standard residential roof in the United States averages between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet of catchment surface. The math on rainfall collection is simple. 1 inch of rain falling on 1 square foot of roof produces approximately 0.6 gallons of collectible water after accounting for evaporation and runoff loss. 1 inch of rain on a 1,500 square foot roof produces 900 gallons. In most regions of the country, average monthly rainfall exceeds 1 inch for the majority of the year. You are living under a water collection system you have never activated. The setup requires gutters, downspouts, and a diversion device that routes the first flush of rainfall away from your storage containers. That first flush matters. It carries bird droppings, debris, and particulate matter concentrated on your roof surface between rain events. Divert the first 5 to 10 gallons of any rain event automatically. Collect everything after. This is not improvisation. This is how commercial rainwater harvesting systems have worked for decades. The equipment exists, it is not expensive, and 99% of people will never install it because they have never calculated how much water their roof produces. Secondary collection sources include surface water from streams, rivers, and standing bodies of water. These require more aggressive filtration and are higher risk for contamination. They are backup sources, not primary ones. Condensation collection from atmospheric moisture using cooling surfaces is viable in humid climates and requires no rainfall at all. The physics is the same as a cold glass sweating on a warm day. Scale it up with the right surface area, and you have a passive collection system that runs continuously. The second layer is filtration. This is where most people make the mistake that costs them everything. They believe boiling water makes it safe. Boiling kills biological threats: bacteria, viruses, protozoa. Bring water to a rolling boil for 1 minute, and biological contamination is neutralized. But boiling does nothing for chemical contaminants, heavy metals, agricultural runoff, industrial chemicals, petroleum byproducts. In a grid-down scenario where infrastructure has failed, chemical contamination of water sources is a real and under-discussed risk. Fuel spills from vehicles, industrial chemicals from facilities losing containment, agricultural chemicals without managed runoff. Boiling concentrates those contaminants as pure water evaporates. You are not making it safer. You are making it worse. The correct filtration hierarchy runs in sequence. First, sediment removal. A simple pre-filter of tightly woven cloth, sand, or a commercial sediment filter removes particulate matter that would clog and destroy your downstream filters prematurely. Second, activated carbon filtration. Carbon filters work through adsorption, binding organic compounds, chlorine byproducts, and some chemical contaminants to the carbon surface as water passes through. They significantly improve taste and remove a meaningful category of chemical threats. Third, ceramic or hollow fiber membrane filtration. These remove bacteria and protozoa through physical exclusion, filtering at 0.1 to 0.2 microns. Most pathogens cannot pass through. Fourth, UV sterilization if power is available. UV light at 254 nanometers destroys the DNA of viruses and bacteria, rendering them unable to reproduce. A small UV pen runs on batteries and treats a liter in 60 seconds. Fifth, chemical treatment as backup only. Iodine tablets and chlorine tabs kill biological threats, but do not address chemical contamination and are not suitable for long-term primary use. Run the sequence in that order every time. Skip a step and you compromise the entire stack. The third layer is storage, and the material science matters more than most people realize. High-density polyethylene, designated HDPE with recycling code 2, is the only plastic suitable for long-term water storage. It does not leach chemicals into water under normal conditions. It resists UV degradation better than other plastics, and it is food grade by industry standard. Standard blue 55-gallon water barrels are HDPE. They see X, a large inconvenient drum taking up space. You see 55 days of water for one person at the survival minimum, stored in a material engineered specifically for this purpose. Temperature and light are the two variables that determine how long stored water remains safe in its container. Store water above 70 degrees Fahrenheit and biological growth accelerates, particularly if any organic matter entered the container during filling. Store water in direct sunlight and UV penetration promotes algae growth even in opaque containers over time. The ideal storage environment is cool, dark, and away from direct ground contact that conducts temperature fluctuations. A basement or interior room floor represents a stable thermal environment that significantly extends storage life. Concrete floors are acceptable if the containers are elevated on pallets to prevent contact moisture absorption through the container base. The fourth layer is rotation discipline, and it is the layer that kills systems built by people who are serious but not systematic. Water stored in a sealed, food-grade HDPE container in the correct environment does not expire. The water itself is stable. What degrades is the container's integrity, and what grows inside it if the container was not scrupulously clean at the time of filling. Biofilm, the thin bacterial layer that forms on any surface in contact with water and organic matter, begins forming within weeks if a container was not properly sanitized before use. It is invisible. It has no odor in early stages. And it contaminates every batch of water you store in that vessel until you eliminate it. The rotation protocol is simple. Every 6 months, empty your storage containers, rinse with a diluted bleach solution of 1 tablespoon per gallon of water, allow to air dry fully, then refill with freshly filtered water. Mark the refill date on every container in permanent marker, not approximately. Every container, every date, every time. This is the systems engineering that separates a 90-day water supply from a 90-day water illusion. The 90-day math for one person is 135 gallons at 1.5 gallons per day. For 2 people, 270 gallons. For 4, 540 gallons. That is the target, not a goal. A target specific and measurable that you either meet or you do not. Here is the part nobody includes in the tutorial. Building the system is not the hard part. The hard part is maintaining it before you need it, when nothing is wrong, when the urgency is entirely theoretical. That gap between building and maintaining is where most water systems fail quietly, often months before they are ever called upon. Failure mode 1 is biofilm. You filled your storage containers once, marked the date, and returned to your life. 12 months passed. The containers sit in your basement, full and sealed, and you feel prepared. What you cannot see is the thin bacterial layer forming on the interior surface of every container that was not scrupulously sanitized at the time of filling. Biofilm has no odor in early stages. It does not change the color or appearance of the water above it. It contaminates your stored supply invisibly and continuously while you remain completely confident your system is operational. The fix is rotation enforced on a calendar, not on a feeling, on a scheduled date that exists regardless of whether anything appears wrong. Failure mode 2 is filtration confidence without filtration understanding. People acquire a ceramic filter, run water through it, and conclude they have safe water. What they do not know is that every mechanical filter has a rated capacity before its performance degrades below specification. Running water through an exhausted filter does not clean the water. It may introduce contamination from the saturated medium itself. Filters require backwashing, drying, and replacement on the schedule printed in the documentation. The documentation that 99% of people discard with the original packaging. Retrieve it. Follow it exactly. The filter is not maintenance-free simply because it contains no moving parts. Failure mode 3 is source contamination underestimation. You identified a creek 2 miles away as a backup source. You have seen it your entire life. It looks clean. Here's what you have not seen. The agricultural operation upstream applying nitrogen fertilizer each spring. The industrial facility whose stormwater drainage connects to that watershed 3 miles north. The road runoff introducing petroleum residue at a dozen points along the banks. Visible clarity is not chemical safety. A creek running clear can carry dissolved contaminants your filtration stack was never designed to address if you never identified the source risk. Map everything upstream of your water source before you depend on it. Failure mode 4 is assumed preparedness. You built 80% of the system. The storage is in place. The filter was acquired but not permanently installed. The rotation calendar exists in your head but not on paper. You feel prepared because the gap between 80% and 0 is enormous. The gap between 80% and 100% is invisible until the moment it matters. A half-built water system produces one thing reliably: false confidence. And false confidence is more dangerous than acknowledged ignorance because it stops you from acting when action is still free and the cost of closing the gap is still low. Navy SEALs do not operate on assumed preparedness. The system exists completely before the operation begins. Every component is tested and verified under controlled conditions before deployment. Not because they expect perfection in the field, because under operational stress, a gap you knew about and did not close will cost you more than a gap you never identified. You cannot improvise your way out of dehydration on a timeline your body sets without negotiation. The professional understanding is simple. Preparation, done before pressure, is the only preparation that functions under pressure. Here's what you do now, today, before anything changes. Calculate your 90-day water requirement. Multiply 1.5 gallons by the number of people in your household, then multiply that result by 90. That number is your storage target, not a goal, not an aspiration, a hard target that you either meet or you do not. Identify your collection sources today using satellite view. Map every roof surface, every water body within 2 miles, every potential catchment point on your property. Note the relative contamination risk for each source. Rank them. Know which source you activate first, which you activate when the primary fails, and how your filtration requirements shift between each tier. Assemble your filtration stack in the correct sequence. Sediment pre-filter first. Activated carbon second. Ceramic or hollow fiber membrane third. UV sterilization as a supplemental layer if battery or solar power is available. Chemical treatment as emergency backup only and never as a primary method. Do not skip steps. Do not reorder. The sequence is not arbitrary. It reflects the order in which each category of threat must be removed for the downstream stages to function as rated. Establish your rotation calendar before your first container is filled. Write the fill date in permanent marker on every container. Set a recurring reminder for 6 months from today. When it arrives, rotate regardless of conditions. Not because you expect contamination, because the system runs on schedule, not on evidence of failure. Your taps are running right now. That is not a reason to feel safe. That is the window. Every day the grid holds is a day this system can be built without pressure, without urgency, without the cognitive degradation that dehydration begins producing well before most people recognize what is happening to them. 99% of people will absorb this and continue exactly as before. They will not calculate the number. They will not map the sources. They will not assemble the stack. They will wait until the urgency is undeniable. And by then, the window is closed, and every decision must be made under conditions that punish error. You now know exactly what they built. The 4 layers, the failure modes, the quantities, the sequence, the discipline that separates a system that produces clean water for 90 days from one that only appeared to. The 90 days do not begin on the day the grid fails. They begin the day you build a system that makes the grid irrelevant.